So there's been a lot of news recently in cartoons about reboots and revivals. Clone High is coming back, Beavis and Butthead is getting a revival, Daria is getting like a spin-off, Mission Hill is getting a spin-off, and one of the more recent ones is Ren and Stimpy getting rebooted again. This got me thinking, which cartoons do I want to have a reboot or revival? So I thought of 5, technically 6, that I would like to have a reboot or some kind of revival of. These aren't going to be in any particular order, they're just my personal choices of what I'd like to see come back. The first cartoon is The Critic, which is the only adult cartoon on this list. It was a show in the 90s about this movie critic that lived in New York that had his own show. It didn't last very long, and it did have a few web episodes after it ended. But with how many movie critics there are on YouTube today, I think this is prime for a reboot. Instead of being about a movie critic on TV, it can be about one on the internet. And it doesn't have to take place in New York, though it could still take place in New York. In fact, just have it about my friend Jim Gisriel, who reviews movies all the time. The next cartoon, or cartoons, that I would like to see revived is something that was unfortunately casualties of Disney's acquisition of Marvel. And those were Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and Spectacular Spider-Man, both of which I watched well after they ended. I checked them out because of my friend Jaxblade, who told me they were the best Marvel cartoons they've ever done, especially Spectacular Spider-Man.
Wait a second. I sense something. I sense Dolphin Boy is up to something. For some reason, I really want to watch the greatest animated series that has ever blessed American TV networks, or any television for that matter, and if you haven't watched it yet, why the hell?
Why do I feel like I summoned something? Anyway, both Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and Spectacular Spider-Man had stories that were incompleted. Both of them had very great iterations of their characters, and I'd just like to see how they would have finished their stories. Next up is Sym-bionic Titan, which is a show about giant robots by Genndy Tartakovsky, famous for Samurai Jack and Dexter's Lab. This is one that a lot of people want back, and I think is actually the most likely to be revived, because of Genndy Tartakovsky's close relationship with Adult Swim. He's been able to make season 5 of Samurai Jack with them, and more recently, Primal, which is an awesome show. So maybe sometime in the near future, they can help him continue Sym-bionic Titan. It's also a show that I think has a lot of potential, and they barely scratched the surface of it. And speaking of shows with a lot of potential, Wander Over Yonder. It only had 2 seasons, and then it was done. This show was on Disney Channel, and then I believe it moved to Disney XD. It's a show by Craig McCracken, and his work is always very fun. I think a big problem with Wander Over Yonder is that it took a while for people to warm up to it. I know it took a while for me, but eventually I ended up loving the show. The first season is good, but the second season is even better. And it was sad to see it end after just a short time. It's a show that I think has a lot of potential with its silly alien antics, and it has great villains with Lord Hater and Lord Dominator. If you haven't seen the show, or you were put off by it because it seemed a bit much, I implore you to give it a second chance. And maybe we can get another season on Disney Plus or something. Now, my final cartoon is more of a personal choice because I just really like the show and I'd like to see more of it. Because out of all of the shows on this list, this one is the one with the most seasons. And that is My Life as a Teenage Robot. I watched the first season on TV as a kid, but then later on I watched the rest of it, and it's a fantastic show. It's really fun. It's about this teenage robot named Jenny who has to save the world, but also just wants to be a regular teenager. I just think there could have been a lot more stories to explore with that concept. And plus, the style is fantastic. That Art Deco look to it is just really good. Also, did you know there was never a My Life as a Teenage Robot video game? Which is weird because it seems like it's one of the Nicktoons that would have been the best fit for a video game. Of course, there was like Flash games and stuff, but not like, you know, a console game at all. So I'm going to be greedy and say there should be a My Life as a Teenage Robot reboot or revival, and also a video game for it. So those are all the cartoons I'd like to see a reboot or revival for. Do you agree with my choices? Or do you disagree? Or are there some other cartoons you'd like to see rebooted or revived? Let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Bye.